Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Rec and Rule. My name is Brian, and today we want to try something a little bit different here. Normally, what we've been doing is, when Joe and I get together, when Frenchie comes and joins us too, is, we have decks put together, we have a plan in mind. We want to try a bunch of different stuff to show you guys some different teams. We also want to try out some new possibilities and get as much exposure to different cards as possible. And then what we've been doing is, if we find something that works, we'll then kind of go over it in like a deck tech type of video. Today I want to try doing the opposite. I want to hit you guys up with an idea that I had today, which I'm going to test out with Joe essentially tomorrow. Now I'm recording this on the Monday. Joe and I will be getting together tomorrow on Tuesday to get together and play it. So you guys will find out later this week exactly, how this worked out for me. I've said this before, but keep in mind, I am someone who kind of needs to experience things and try them out to kind of have a good handle on it. So I have ideas that in my head, like theory-wise, they should work, but I have to actually put it onto the table, try it, get a few reps in with it to, figure out if it's something worth trying out. So do not take this as something that you should copy and that you should try out and take to a big tournament. It is extremely untested. I don't even have these cards sleeved yet to be able to play them. I'll be putting that together a little bit later. So without further ado, we're going to take a look. We're going to try using the rare version of Megatron. We're going to try using Shrapnel and Kickback. So the genesis behind this deck, there are two reasons why I wanted to build something around rare Megatron. The first is that in the current IDW comics, he has been a fantastic character. To kind of see him going from his origins as someone who was kind of advocating for peaceful, nonviolent protesting, to becoming radicalized, to becoming the leader of the Decepticons, to eventually kind of falling away from that, becoming an Autobot, and kind of seeing how things are going with that. It is a really fantastic arc. I highly recommend that you guys check it out. The other reason why is that rare Megatron has been getting a lot less love compared to the rare version of Prime. And Joe and Frenchie and Pete and Cody and all those guys in our local area, they can tell you that I like to work with the things that people generally either discount or they don't think it's worth pursuing. And I like to try to make those dark horse type of list or decks work. So here, we're going to be using the rare version of Megatron. So the idea here is that if rare Prime is focused on getting weapons out there, rare Prime is focused on getting actions out there, rare Megatron is focused on getting weapons out there. So looking here in robot mode, essentially you can put 3 weapons onto Megatron. You can put weapons into his armor and or his utility spots. When you flip into tank mode, you can return a weapon that is from your scrap pile to your hand. He's got strong attack in both modes. He's got 5 as a tank. He's got 7 as a robot. 2 defense is not anything to write home about, but at least it's not 1 defense like some of the other characters that I like to use. He is a leader, although we're not going to really have any cards that trigger off of that. He is a tank. We're not going to have any cards that trigger off of that. We will have a few cards that trigger off of his ranged keyword here. 14 health is pretty strong. I'll definitely take 14 health. He does come in at 13 stars, which, to be quite honest, seeing Joe play him, looking at some of the other ideas that other people have come up with, I think he's probably overcosted. It's tough to find a good team that uses him because you only have 12 more stars left over to work with. But we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Going to pair Megatron up with Shrapnel. So the idea here is that we want to keep Megatron alive and healthy as long as possible. We want to load him up with weapons and then just have him start one-shotting characters, essentially. People in my local community, they've started using Shrapnel more often, and he is extremely extremely annoying. The biggest play is probably that while he is in robot mode, he cannot take more than 3 attack damage from a single attack, which means that unless you have some other ways to sneak damage out there, it will take you at least 3 different attacks to actually take him down. On top of that, that 5 attack in robot mode is also pretty strong. I think a good first play with this deck is going to be to flip Shrapnel into robot mode and then send him into attack. His bug mode has some utility here. When you flip into it, you can KO one of your Insecticons. That does include him. If you do, you tap an enemy that has 13 stars or fewer. Again, like if the goal is to keep Megatron alive, if it looks like Shrapnel or if it looks like the other Insecticon that we're going to use are going to get killed, then it would be better to just kill them off and instead, tap one of their heavy hitters. Tap, Rare Prime before he comes in and does insane amounts of damage. We will definitely take that play if it looks viable. He's melee in both modes, which is actually in this deck kind of a downside. Insecticon, we're not going to trigger any cards off of that. He's a leader too, but again, we don't have any cards that trigger off of leaders. With him being 7, I think he's a good value for 7. We only have 5 points left to work with. Our options there were RC, Flame War, or Kickback. I'm going to try to keep a little bit of Insecticon synergy going between these two. So we're going to try a Kickback out. He's only 5. So his robot mode I basically don't ever want to be in because it's not really super helpful. And my deck doesn't necessarily have like a ton of orange in there. So when he attacks as robot mode, you can flip 2 more battle cards for each other Insecticon you began the game with. In this case, that is only 1 more, so that's not really that helpful. In bug mode, when he damages an enemy, I can repair 1 damage from one of my Insecticons, and that does include Kickback as well. There's some possible utility right there, so I might use that to kind of heal up Shrapnel, try to keep him annoying for a little bit longer. So I will probably be keeping Kickback in his bug mode. With that said, he only has 1 defense and he's got 9 health behind that. So when they do start to focus on Kickback, he will die very quickly. I will also consider using him as a target for Shrapnel's ability here. Just take Kickback out. He's not really going to do a lot of damage for me. I will gladly kill Kickback in order to tap one of their characters that looks scary. That feels like a very Megatron type of thing to do, so I'm okay with that play. As I said before, like the whole kind of like strategy going into this is that we want to keep Megatron alive as long as we can. So we want to try to use the 2 bugs to kind of soak up damage. We want to use them to also kind of buy some time, build up some good cards in hand to be able to get a bunch of weapons onto Megatron, maybe debuff their team a little bit too. Let's take a look at the cards that I will be putting into this deck. I haven't quite figured out exact numbers, but you guys will have a pretty good idea here. Grenade Launcher is basically an auto-include here. I want to stack up just static bonuses to attack. I'm not going to try it for a lot of bold. I don't necessarily have a ton of orange in this deck, which again is a little bit of a departure from what I've been doing with my Dinobots and with Hot Wheels using Wheeljack to also stack some bold in there too. +4, we'll take it. And Megatron's tank mode, when you flip into it, you can also start pulling these back into your hand, which also has some possible interesting plays as well. Energon X, great onto damage characters. It can only be put on damage characters. The Pierce 2 might maybe help the bugs hit if they're not, generating a ton of damage, but it's really that +3 attack. Like I will happily have 1 or 2 of these on Megatron as we get to later game as he's got some damage on him. Blue Pips, I'm also trying to keep Megatron alive. I've stacked it a little bit more towards blue than I usually do. We'll kind of see how that ratio works out. Armed Hovercraft, I want to put this on to Megatron. He is the only ranged character I have. When it goes on Megatron, I do 1 damage to each enemy, which, again, just want to start putting as much damage out there quickly as I can. I want to see these early. Drill Arms, static +1, which, it's not fantastic. However, when it goes on to a character, you can scrap enemy armor. This is basically here to knock force fields off of enemies. Again, we've got that blue pip. Force field is there to try to keep maybe the bugs alive, possibly, like make them dangle them out there, let them soak some damage. Maybe they take more attacks than it would normally take to kill them, but it's also there to keep Megatron alive, obviously. White pips are there. I'm hoping to see these when I defend. Again, got a little bit more stacked towards blue. This one here is one that I'm iffy about, but I'm willing to try. Again, I want to try to keep the bugs alive as long as possible, then keep Megatron alive as long as possible. I also want to see these early. I want to put them on the bugs, make them take less damage, make them take more attacks to kill before they are off the board. This is probably something that I will consider taking out if I choose to stick with this and refine this deck. It is basically the defensive version of a grenade launcher. You use it once and then it gets scrapped. Debilitating Crystal is another way to get rid of force fields in case I have to. When the upgraded character attacks, you knock away one of the defending characters' upgrades back to the owner's hand. White pip, but again, I'm using this to try to knock things off of characters that I'm attacking. Specifically, I want to get rid of force field. The past week's games of, Joe playing me, force fields I do not like to see out there. I will knock them off. Moving now into actions. Leap into battle is a good solid one. +3 to an attack till the end of the turn. Makes Megatron scary if he's got some weapons. Makes the bugs actually put some damage out there. Blue pip, definitely a 3 of. New designs as an action lets you play an upgrade. So you can play this, put an upgrade out, then put another upgrade out. This is there to power up Megatron for some big swings. One of the few or relatively few sources of orange in the deck. Rollout, this is here not so much for the bugs, it's more for Megatron. There are some plays where if I get Megatron into tank mode, pull a weapon into my hand, play the weapon, flip to robot mode, then play the weapon. Kind of helps him power up pretty quickly if I don't have a good weapon in hand at that moment, or maybe will also let me kind of stack some grenade launchers as well. Rapid conversion, basically same idea. So this is to help me kind of get that flip to get Megatron in the mode that I want him to be in. White pips also allow me to maybe fish for more blue pips while defending. Treasure hunt is there so that I definitely get some weapons in my hand as soon as I can, and kind of keep not only that, but also have the weapons in my hand that I want to have in my hand. If I need to, knock off a force field, I'll pull in the drill arms. Or if I want to kind of get some AoE damage out there kind of quickly, I'll pull in the armed hovercraft. If I want to just blast one thing away, I'm hoping for a grenade launcher. So kind of that's the purpose of that there. Again, relatively few oranges in there, but this is one of them. Swap missions, the idea here is that if I see an opening to have Megatron attack early in a round, I can have Megatron attack and then have him take some damage back. Then play this. I will untap Megatron and then I will tap one of the bugs, assuming that they're still alive. In my head, this sounds like a good play, but we'll see how that works out. I Still Function is there to, again, basically keep Megatron alive. I want to drag out as long as possible when Megatron actually attacks. I want him going last. If one of the bugs dies, I can kind of have one bug attack. I can use this to bring another bug back. This way, I'm leaving Megatron vulnerable as little as possible. It's probably a 2 of because I do not want to see blank pips. Though I can maybe see this going to a 3 of. Should be noted that this will not actually bring Megatron back if Megatron gets killed because he is 13 stars. A couple cards that I'm not putting in here, which at first I wanted to, but then I took a closer look and realized that would be a bad idea. Fusion Cannon of Megatron is definitely one, which makes me sad. I would have loved to have put 3 of these on Megatron, but at least this version does not really care about stacking Pierce that much. I want more of that like static orange buff right there. So it's not quite going to do what I want. The other card that I considered was Swarm. I have 2 Insecticons. I have either all oranges or all blue. So Actually, thinking, like looking at this now, I might actually put this back in there. So there are some oranges I can kind of put out some indirect damage onto the enemy. But for blues, repairing my characters is intriguing. So now that I see this again, it's not repairing one from an Insecticon, it is from one of your characters. This might actually be going back in. We'll see how things go. I know that was kind of a quick video there. I'll kind of update you guys. You'll see me play this week against Joe. We'll see how it plays out, and I'll kind of give like a debriefing afterwards where I tell you guys how things went. We do have a Facebook page now, so please click on that. It'll be in the video description down bottom. Let me know if you guys have any ideas or any thoughts on how this could maybe be tweaked to make it better, to make it stronger. Yeah, so until all are one, goodbye.